Good afternoon. My name is Robyn Silvestri. I'm the Executive Director at Save the Great South Bay. And I just want to start by saying thanks to CTUC for hosting this amazing conference. There's a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience here today. I'm a little intimidated, I have to say. I am working with Save the Great South Bay for about 4 years now. We're a local environmental organization whose task is to improve water quality in the Great South Bay. And one of the questions that we often get asked is, how is the Bay doing? And so every year we host a quarterly speaker series, and in October we invite Dr. Christopher Gobler from Stony Brook, SOMAS, to come down and give us a presentation on the state of the bays. And at the end of every conference, we say to Dr. Gobler for the last 4 years, hey, we need one of those report cards like they have up on the North Shore. Long Island Sound, Save the Sound organization puts out this amazing report card based on a unified water study that depicts the health of the bays in a very easy, non-scientific format in letter grades. From A to F, they grade the different bays and tributaries that are leading into the Sound. And so for 4 years, we have talked about putting together a report card similar to this for the Great South Bay. This year we said, okay, it's time to stop talking about it and it's time to start doing something about it. And so we have launched the South Shore Unified Water Study. What originally started off as a project just for the Great South Bay quickly grew to encompass the entire South Shore estuary. So as you know, we have the Long Island Sound on the North Shore, the Peconic Estuary on the east end of Long Island, and the entire South Shore of Long Island is considered the South Shore Estuary Reserve. It's broken down into 3 areas, and it spans from Hempstead Bay all the way out to Shinnecock in Southampton. So when we started to look and say, okay, who's doing water quality monitoring out on the South Shore? Well, this is what we found. This is a 2017 study done by USGS for the South Shore Estuary Reserve. And all of these dots represent places where water quality monitoring is happening already. The thing for us was, okay, where is this data and how do we get this data into the hands of the everyday people? You know, the program managers, the decision makers, the people who control the funding sources in order to do restoration projects. So we took these and we boiled it down and said, okay, how do we present this information? And of course the answer is the report card. But you know, what does the data mean? With all of these different monitoring sites going on, we have multiple protocols that are being implemented to keep it very simple. Who's collecting at what time of day, who's collecting at what time of year, who's collecting different metrics. And so we found it as non-scientists really almost impossible to interpret the data or draw trends and see, get a clear picture of the health of the bays. Our motto is you can't manage what you can't measure. And there is no, like we saw, there's no lack of measuring going on, but it's how do we interpret it. So we looked to what Save the Sound was doing up on the North Shore. They produced this amazing report card that very clearly indicates for the non-scientist the health of the bays. They're graded on an A to an F scale. They measure some simple metrics like dissolved oxygen, turbidity, conductivity, and there's one other metric which is escaping me right now. They do it as a unified water study, and then they use existing data, which is really important because we have decades of data out there from Town of Hempstead, from Suffolk County Department of Health, and Stony Brook Labs out east, just to mention a few of them. So our goal is to really create a report card that will tell this story, but for the South Shore. So our answer to the question was creating an innovative water quality monitoring protocol, a very simple, one-size-fits-all monitoring protocol that all of our monitoring partners could introduce or put to use out on the water. The data will then be interpreted to create this educational tool of an easy-to-understand report card. So right now we are working with the Suffolk County Department of Health Services, Cornell Cooperative, CTUC Environmental, Stony Brook SOMAS program, and the Town of Hempstead Waterways and Conservation as members of our Technical Advisory Committee as we look to put this program together. We're bringing in the best scientists on the South Shore of Long Island that we can find, using their knowledge and their experience, their monitoring programs that already exist in order to get our pilot year launched. We've brought in science advisors from UConn and McLaughlin Research Corporation who were instrumental in getting Save the Sounds model set up. Our organization is all about collaboration, and we are not about reinventing the wheel. So there is a model that exists that's being put to really great use for 10 years now up on the North Shore, and we are closely as possible replicating that model for the South Shore to reduce, I don't know, let's say the learning curve for putting this program into place. Right now, this is probably as technical as I'm going to get for you guys, but right now we're in site selection. We're using a hex overgrid, so overlay, to select random sites within 3 of the major estuaries for this year's pilot program. We'll be working in Carmen's River with Cornell Cooperative conducting the water quality monitoring. We'll be working in the Connecticut River with Suffolk County Department of Health, and we'll be working with CTUC in the Great Cove area. These are our 3 test sites that we're going to use this year. We will not be using any of the data from this year for report card purposes. It's really a year just to set up our database, test the protocols, make sure everybody can get out at the same time, in the same window between 3 hours of sunrise, make sure that all the equipment that we have is in place. And in each of these, we'll be monitoring up to 9 sites. Again, we find it really important to utilize decades of existing data. While it won't qualify for the Unified Water Study, it does not negate the validity and the importance of existing data in order to draw trends. So these are just 3 examples of programs that are out there that have decades worth of information to complement what we're collecting for the Unified Water Study. Our goals for this program are to establish a baseline. There is a major nitrogen problem that's facing the South Shore bays coming off of the mainland. We say that it's not the bay is just a symptom. It's really the mainland is sick. We have over 380,000 cesspools in Suffolk County alone. These cesspools leach nitrogen into the ground. It all makes its way to the bay, triggering these harmful algal blooms that have decimated marine life and our seagrasses. There are many programs out there that are working already to improve water quality, but what we want to establish is a baseline of, okay, here is the water quality as of today, or based on the data that we've collected over years, and what is the impact of the restoration efforts that are going to be ongoing. If the ballot measure is successful in November, we will have hundreds of millions of dollars over the next 25 years coming in to expand sewer usage and help people who don't qualify for sewers to be able to incorporate innovative and alternative wastewater treatment systems to replace their outdated systems. This is a tremendous amount of investment that's going on, that will be going on over the next 25 years, and we want to be able to measure the progress of these programs in a way that everyday people can understand. Yes, okay, and so our second goal here is to be able to help program managers, legislators, assemblymen, senators, everyday people identify and prioritize areas that are in need of restoration. Bellport Bay, for example, was not in need of restoration until the inlet closed. And now we need to once again start to look at that area and say, how are we going to address the water quality degradation that's happening out there now that that inlet has closed up again. Areas like in Oakdale, where there's major tidal interaction with cesspools and the nitrogen just flows out into the bay. You know, these are areas that can be more easily identified as in need of immediate assistance. And of course, we want to increase awareness and understanding amongst everyday people. We have over 27,500 followers on our social media, and what they want to know really is the answer to the question of how is the Bay doing and what can we do? Thank you. What can we do in order to start where we stand and help improve water quality in the Bay? So that was my presentation. Thank you so much.
Wait, we have time for questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Just a quick question. How does your program interact with the South Shore Estuary Reserve Program?
Great question. So we originally started off wanting to create a Great South Bay report card. That's, we are Save the Great South Bay, and we kind of stick in our lane. But as we started talking about the idea of creating a report card like Save the Sounds for the Great South Bay area, we were approached by partners across the South Shore Estuary Reserve who said, hey, how can we participate in this program? And that made us realize that we really want to have a South Shore Estuary-wide report card that will encompass Hempstead to Shinnecock so that we get an overall picture of the health of all of the South Shore Bays and not just the Great South Bay. So we'll be working with partners from the western end of South Shore Estuary Reserve to the eastern end.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One of the reasons I've heard that, thank you for the presentation, by the way. One of the reasons I've heard that the South Shore Estuary Reserve and the South Shore Bays in general don't get the funding that the Long Island Sound gets or the Peconic Estuary is because they're not federally recognized. And I'm wondering if you have any insight into why we are the poor folks that can't tap into federal funds. Because it seems, they're vitally important bays. We've got a gazillion people living along the shorelines. They're important economically. I mean, why don't we rate?
That is a great question. We've been asking that question for years ourselves. So I can say this, the Long Island Sound has the support of Connecticut and New York. Connecticut being a little bit more progressive in supporting the programs out on the Long Island Sound. So they have a dual state approach. They are a federally recognized water body. Peconic Estuary Preserve is also federally recognized. Yeah. South Shore Estuary Reserve was established through legislation. So the governing body for the South Shore area is established in a different way. We actually asked the question of how do we, we're just a little local nonprofit, but hey, how do we start the conversation on getting federally recognized? And one of the answers we received was that they're not accepting any new water bodies into that federal program at this time. But don't worry, we won't let it go.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, it's time for lunch.
Thanks, Robyn.